a reflection of something happening inside your own mind? Would you pause for a moment and look within? Because most of us spend our whole life trying to fix the world outside, but very few of us ever learn to understand the world inside. And maybe that is why things never really change. So, welcome to this live session. This is not just a reading, this is a space where we slow down and reflect together. And on this channel, we explore inner growth, awareness, and deeper meaning of life. So, not by escaping reality, but by understanding it more clearly. And today we are going to read from a very special book. The world is a reflection of the mind. And this book is not just literature, it also a practical guide for living in a complex world. And it gently reminds us that happiness is not something we chase outside, but something we begin to discover within. And the author Xuemo is not only an outstanding writer, but also a spiritual mentor who deeply understands life and reality. His words are simple, but they carry a depth that unfolds slowly as you read. And one of the translators once said that this book enlightened her deeply during the translation process and revealing both the simplicity and the complexity of life. Another scholar even said this work is not meant to please the public, but to help the reader transcend illusion and discover something more lasting and real. So today we are not just reading words, we are stepping into a mirror that reflects how we see the world and more importantly, how we see ourselves. So let's begin. The world is a reflection of the mind. Even the biggest even the biggest matters fade into memory. So perhaps some may ask how joyful is true happiness and how does it differ from mere pleasure? I cannot implant this experience into your heart, but I can assure you that if you recognize the true mind, you will discover that all the happiness derived from within, from external circumstances cannot compare to the inherent paradise within. This discrepancy exists because the world outside is ever changing. For instance, you may save money to buy the latest smartphone, but it will eventually break down. Besides, you might immediately start anticipating the release of another updated model. Similarly, you may hope that owning a BMW will impress your clients, but once you have it, you realize that they no longer care about your car brand. Their concerns have shifted to something else. Then what should you do? So even the biggest matters fade into memory. Think about something that once kept you awake at night. At that time, it felt like everything depended on it. But now maybe it has already disappeared from your life. So perhaps some may ask, how joyful is true happiness? And how is it different from what we usually call pleasure? Because most of what we chase is actually just pleasure, something that comes quickly and disappears just as quickly. I cannot implant this experience into your heart. No one can give you true happiness from the outside, but I can assure you of one thing. If you recognize your true mind, you will discover something very different. A kind of happiness that does not depend on anything outside, a kind of a quiet completeness. And once you taste that, you will see clearly that all the happiness derived from external conditions cannot compare to the paradise within. A good question. By note, have you ever watched the Netflix series called you? Netflix, I think it is cartoon. Netflix is my favorite, and Moana is my favorite movie. Moana. Hello, should I focus on money or my research to serve the world? And I think both are very important. Um, to serve the world is so important, but also you also need some material basis to support you to do that, right? So you should have some time to earn money, and this is very really important. And then you can focus on serve the world. Okay, most people never question the pattern. Yeah, that's what you're saying. So they simply move from one desire to another, from one expectation to the next, always believing that the next one will be different, that the next achievement, the next purchase, or the next recognition will finally bring something lasting. But if you look carefully, it is actually the same cycle repeating. And the problem is not the things themselves. There is nothing wrong with having a phone or driving a nice car and or wanting to be appreciated. The problem is the expectation we watch to them. We expect them to give us something that they were never meant to give, and that is why disappointment keeps appearing. Not because life is unfair, but because we are looking in the wrong direction. So, at some point, a very quiet question may arise: what if the problem is not outside? Hi, I see some new friends here, and please subscribe to our channel. If you are our also there are old friends here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. So what if nothing is missing out there? And what if we are searching for is something we have overlooked within? And this is not a philosophical idea. This is something you can observe directly. Right here in your own experience, for example, before something happens, your mind already create a story about it. You imagine how it will feel, you project meaning onto it. And then when reality becomes you compare it with your own projection, and that comparison is often where suffering begins. So gradually, we begin to see something more subtle. It is not the world disturbing us, it is the way we are relating to it. And when that becomes clear, a different kind of freedom appears. Not because the world has changed, but because you are no longer trapped in the same pattern. So, can you see this pattern in your own life? You can leave your message, and at the same time, I will continue reading. So, if you base your happiness on the aggregation of causes and conditions, it means that your happiness is conditional. Once the object it relies on dissipates along with the changing circumstances, it too will vanish. This kind of happiness is just a fleeting sensation, like memories that eventually fade away. Thus, hoping to find lasting happiness in external objects inevitably leads to a paradox. You will find yourself continuously facing disappointment, even when you get what you want. Anxiety and inability to truly enjoy it may follow. Happiness that relies on external elements is, by nature, temporary, or no matter what those elements are. When you realize this, many things that once seemed crucial will appear trivial. In fact, nothing in the world has lasting meaning since all is transient. There is no real difference between having and losing. So there is nothing worth clinging to. However, this doesn't mean we should ignore everything and live aimlessly. Instead, understanding the natural law of dependence arising and ceasing may inspire us to lead a more meaningful life. So when you begin to realize, to see it clearly, something inside you may feel a little unsettled because it challenges almost everything we were taught. We were taught to chase, to achieve, to accumulate, as if these things could secure our happiness. But now a different understanding begins to emerge. Not as a belief, but as something you can quietly observe. You begin to notice that every time you depend on something outside, there is always a subtle tension, a fear of losing it, a need to protect it, and sometimes even before losing it, you are already worried about losing it. So the question is not just about happiness, it is also about freedom. And is there a way to experience joy without constantly defending it, without anxiety sitting quietly in the background? And this is where a deeper shift begins. You stop asking, how can I get more? And you begin to ask, what is already here, but I have not noticed? Because sometimes what we call emptiness is not a lack of something, but a space that has not been understood. And within that space, there is actually a different quality of experience, a kind of calm that does not depend on outcomes, and a kind of clarity that does not come from thinking more. And when you touch that, even briefly, you may start to understand something deeply. Why clinging creates suffering? So why clinging creates suffering? And why letting go is not lose, but a different way of being? So life does not become meaningless, it actually becomes more intentional, more conscious, because now you are no longer acting out of fear or lack, but from understanding. And that changes everything. And let's continue. I am sharing the book. The world is a reflection of the mind. So let's continue. Take a simple example. If you discover that your loved one has been diagnosed with a terminal illness and may only have a month to live, you will cherish and adore her as if she were a precious jewel, feeling immensely happy as long as she is alive. During such moments, you will not care about how she treats you or if she fulfills every one of your expectations. Likewise, only when you recognize that everything is in constant change will you stop calculating and fully live in the present moment. So, this example reveals something very subtle about human nature. It is not that love suddenly appears in that moment. It was always there. But most of the time, it is covered by expectation, by judgment, by the constant calculation of gain and loss. We ask, does this person treat me the way I want? Am I getting enough in return? And without realizing it, love becomes a transaction, something conditional, but in that moment, when you truly see impermanence, something drops. Not because you try to let go, but because you suddenly understand. You see that time is limited, that nothing can be held forever, and in that clarity, you stop asking for more. You stop demanding, you simply want to be there fully, and that kind of presence is already a form of love. So the question becomes why do we need such extreme situations to access this kind of clarity? Why do we only cherish when something is bound to disappear? And what if we don't wait for that moment? What if we can see right now that everything is already changing? The people around you, the situations you are in, even your own thoughts and emotions, nothing stays. And when this is not just an idea, but something you truly feel, life becomes very different. You begin to show up more fully, not because you're told to live in the present, but because you naturally do. Because there is nothing to postpone, nothing to wait for, and strangely, when you stop calculating, you actually experience more richness in life, more connection, more sincerity, not because the world has changed, but because you are no longer feeling it through gain and loss. So, hi, our old friends here. Thank you for your time. And Wendy is doing the live session before me, so you can come earlier um, tomorrow, so you can talk to her. Let's continue reading. Yet, this is still a form of reasoning, and reasoning involves Tracy's thoughts. Thought itself is a mental construct, another form of memory, but the true mind is not logic, nor is it a result of reasoning. It is the most genuine aspect of human existence. The innate wisdom of life, it is not erratic or ever changing. It does not fluctuate with external circumstances. It is quite literally unborn and undying. You are not empty or devoid of anything. Total absence, like stagnant and lifeless water, represents mere nothingness, not the true mind. The true mind has its wondrous manifestation, awakening to the present, staying mindful in the present, and getting enlightened in the present. To put it differently, you should always rest in the true mind, abide in emptiness, stay alert, remain mindful, and not allow desire to sway your mind or become obvious and unresponsible to everything. So, this is where many people start to feel confused because we are so used to thinking our way through everything. We believe that if we think enough, we will eventually understand. But here, something very different is being pointed to. Not something you can figure out, but something you can directly notice. So let me put it in a very simple way right now. Before you think about anything, there is already an awareness, a silent knowing. It does not speak, it does not explain, but it is always there. Even when your thoughts are chaotic, even when your emotions are strong, this awareness is still present. It is like the sky, and your thoughts are like clouds. Clouds come and go, they change shape. Sometimes they are heavy, sometimes they disappear. But the sky itself does not become the clouds, and it is not affected by them. So when we talk about the true mind, we are not talking about something mystical. We are pointing to this simple awareness, the part of you that is always here. Hi, I see so many new friends here. Welcome. You can subscribe to our channel. We are mainly about the spiritual wisdom, inner strength, inner power, inner peace, and clarity, and the traditional wisdom that can be practiced in your daily life. So we are pointing to the simple awareness, the part of you that is always here, before thought, beyond reasoning. And the interesting thing is, you don't need to create it, you don't need to improve it, you only need to notice it. And here is the difficulty. We are so used to chasing thoughts that we forget to rest in awareness. We follow every story, we react to every feeling, and slowly we lose touch with this quiet presence. So when it says stay mindful, it does not mean controlling your mind. It does not mean suppressing thought. It simply means remembering that you are not the thoughts themselves. You are the one who sees them. And when you rest there, something natural becomes stable. Not forced, not constructed, but already there. And from that place, life becomes much clearer. Because now you are no longer lost in every passing wave. You begin to see them without being carried away by them. So, right now, can you notice this awareness? Not your thoughts, but the one that is aware of them. Hi, glad to see the friends here. Yes. Hello. Welcome back. I'm sharing the book The World is a Reflection of the Mind. Now you feel thirsty and you drink a glass of water without concerning yourself with its taste or why you did not choose a beverage. This is a wondrous expression of the true mind. It is also true for mind writing and service for sentient beings. The magical application of the true mind depends on causal conditions without any fixed form and can encompass all aspects of the world. Engaging in any activity with clarity and autonomy, free from selfish desires, is the magical application of the true mind. Because you understand that everything is but a memory. What you ate, drank, the conversations you had, what others said to you, and so forth, whether you care or not, it cannot truly change anything, as nothing remains the same. Once you grasp this fact, you will never feel lost or suffer anymore. You will realize that going with the flow is wonderful. If you can genuinely embrace change, then in this world there are no problems, only phenomena that arise and cease. There is no suffering, only sensations that come and go. There are no attachments, only experiences and nourishment. Okay, this is my favorite sentence during the whole book. So if you can genuinely embrace change, then in this world there are no problems, only phenomena that arise and cease. There is no suffering, only sensations that come and go. There are no attachments, only experiences and nourishment. How's this? So this may sound very abstract at first, but in reality, it is happening in your life all the time. Not in special moments, but in the most ordinary situations. For example, when you are walking, just walking, not thinking about past, not worrying about the future, but simply feeling each step. There is a kind of ease in that, a kind of effortlessness, or when you're listening to someone, truly listening, not preparing your response, not judging what they say, but just receiving. That clarity, that openness is already a glimpse of something deeper. So the application of this awareness is not something extraordinary. It is not about doing something special. It is about how you are in what you are already doing. Whether there is tension, whether there is resistance, whether there is hidden desire behind it. Because once desire becomes the center, the mind starts to lose its clarity. It begins to grasp, to control, to calculate outcomes, and that is where heaviness appears. But when there is no need to grasp, no need to prove anything, something becomes very light, very natural, and actions still happen. Life still moves, but there is no inner struggle behind it. And this is what makes it wondrous, because it adapts to every situation without being fixed in any pattern. Like water, it flows, it takes shape, but it is never trapped. So when you begin to see that everything you experience is constantly passing, sometimes inside, something inside relaxes, you stop holding so tightly. I am sharing the book The World is a Reflection of the Mind. And this is already been published for a very pretty long time. The world is a reflection of the mind. And it is the most popular work during the English edition books internationally. So something inside really relaxes. You stop holding so tightly. You stop overreacting, not because you don't care, but because you understand. And this understanding does not make life empty. It actually it makes it more vivid, more direct, more alive. Because now you are not resisting what comes, and you are not clinging to what goes. And so experience flows freely. And in that flow, there is a quiet kind of joy, not tense, not dramatic, but steady and deeply fulfilling. Hi, so many old friends here. It's so happy to see you guys here. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Where have I read? Okay, let's continue. Unfortunately, we are often deluded by this illusory world. When lost in this deception, we feel trapped by insurmountable hurdles, leading to the misbelief that our lives have hit a dead end. We struggle to see any hope and become mentally and physically exhausted. In these moments, another voice within us whispers, why bother living? Life is a burden, while death would solve everything. No more worries about how others look down on you, losing your job, or heartbreak if someone leaves you. That means the end of everything. That is why during a bear market, an investor overwhelmed by despair might choose to end his life. But unbeknownst to him, as soon as he jumps off the building, the stock market starts rebounding. His imagined predetermination of losing everything changes every moment. Sadly, it was his false assumption that may throw him into tragedy. And this is how the world functions. Often, calamities are simply outcomes of a deluded mind. Hi, Anita. How you mind feel out of control? You mean the situation in your life is out of control? Do you mean it? Speaking about control, actually, in my past lives, they're like, I want to control everything because that makes me feel security. And actually, it turns out it is unnecessary because everything changes, and the changing is the only unchangeable thing in the world. So Okay, what we have read before, and this is something many people experience, even though they don't talk about it. There are moments everything feels too heavy, where the mind starts telling a very convincing story, a story that says there's no way out, and this is the end. And in that moment, it does not feel like a thought, it feels like reality. But if we look carefully, we may begin to notice something subtle, that the mind is projecting a fixed future based on a temporary situation. It takes a moment and turns it into a conclusion. But life itself does not move like that. It is constantly shifting, constantly opening new possibilities, even when we cannot see them. So, what traps us is not the situation itself, but the certainty we build around it. The belief that this is how it will always be, and once we believe that, hope disappears, energy disappears. But what if we don't follow that conclusion? What if we simply recognize, and this is just a thought, not a whole reality, then something begins to loosen, not immediately changing everything, but creating a small space. Hi, our old friend here. Thank you. Thank you for coming by. Leave a like. Thank you. And please share our channel to more of our friends. Thank you so much. So sometimes that small space is enough to pause, enough to breathe, enough to not make a final decision in a temporary state, because no state is permanent, no feeling lasts forever, even desire disappear changes. And when you see that, you begin to try something deeper, not the surface of your thoughts, but the movement of the life itself. And that changes how you respond. So if you have ever felt this way, you are not alone. And more importantly, this is not the end of your story. So let's continue to read the book. I'm reading the book. The world is a reflection of the mind. I'm using this because it is Chinese and English bilingual edition. When your mind has enough clarity and a rationality to detach from phenomena and objectively evaluate the situation, you will find that